Hi guys! The other day I read a fantastic blog entry by a girl named Catherine Martinko, I think she pronounces her name. It's called Don't Stop Knitting. And it was an absolutely fantastic article about all the great benefits that knitting has. And as you guys know, it's one of my favorite hobbies. She talks about how it's used in some kinds of therapy for chronic pain because it's such a meditative art. How it's a social activity that's for the semi-social. Much like myself, it allows you to be social, to talk to people, but without making eye contact and doing it politely. You can also get together in knitting groups and you can share projects, you can share ideas and inspirations. All in all, it's just a fantastic art to get into that can improve your life in so many different ways. People ask me all the time to teach them how to knit, and I love to do it. I just love sharing my craft with as many people as possible. So I wanted to start a series that can teach you from the more basic steps. You may have seen that I've already posted a few videos about more advanced techniques and little ins and outs of ways to do things. But I want to start from the very beginning and teach you how to cast on, how to knit, how to purl, and then go from there, and you can learn all the more advanced techniques and create something truly beautiful. Because this is fun, it's easy, it's calming, and in today's high-strung, stressful world, we're constantly on the go. Sometimes you really just need to take a breath, relax, and just make something beautiful. So, here you go. This is how you knit, the basics. So the first thing you need to learn how to do is cast on. That's just how you get the yarn onto the needles in the first place. So what you'll need for this is just a pair of knitting needles and a random length of yarn. If you got a good amount, that's going to give you as much leeway as possible. You can use any size knitting needle for this. I like a size 8. It's fairly standard, not too big, not too small. And I'm going to show you how to cast on with 2 needles. There is a method for casting on with 1 needle. I like this better. So first, what you need to do is create a knot. And the way you're going to do that is form a loop. And you want your tail, the shorter tail end on top. And then you fold it over again. So just pinch that down and fold over. So you have like this pretzel. And I'm going to do that again. So you loop it over so the tail end is in front. Then you pinch it and roll it. So this tail is kind of enclosed in a loop. And then you have your long strand behind everything. And then you bring your needle in, and you're going to stick it under the long tail. Okay? So loop, fold, and then underneath. Then you pull that tight. Then you turn your needle around. If you're a righty like me, if you're a lefty, you can keep it in the same hand or whatever works best for you. Make sure you got a good amount of slack on your yarn. Alright, to cast on more stitches, this first loop is your first stitch. Now, bring your other needle in, just like this, in the front. So, it's just wrapped around both needles. And then you take your long tail. I'm trying to like reach around my camera here. Sorry for the awkwardness. So you take your long tail and you bring it around the second needle. Okay? So come in just like that. Bring it around. And then pull that loop through. Okay, so now you have 1 loop on each needle. I'll show you one more time. Needle in, bring it around, good angle. Needles in, bring it around, and pull through. So now you have one loop on each needle. This one kind of pulls out and tightens again. So what you're going to do is bring it up, and then you slide the needle in your left hand down into that loop from on the right hand. You can pull the right hand needle out. So now you have two loops on your left hand needle. You're going to repeat that process. So on the new loop, you go in, just like you did before, loop around back, and pull through. Alright, now that's 3 stitches. For this particular pattern, I'm going to cast on 43. So there's the 4th. You'll get a little faster as you go. I'm trying to keep it nice and slow for you here. But I have been doing this for over a decade now. Speaking of which, since I've been doing this for so long, there are some parts that come to me almost as a second nature. If you have any questions, please post them below. I'm very responsive. I will answer you. To the best of my ability, anyway. Three, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I now have my 43 stitches. By the way, if you're curious, this is the baby hoodie pattern I'm working on. You can find it on my website, the hooded baby sweater. There's a neon green one in the picture. So, next stitch, I'm going to show you how to do a standard knit, like a knit stitch. So, just like you were doing before, go through this side of the stitch, so you kind of come from underneath. And you bring the yarn around the back of your right needle, and you slide through. But unlike when you were casting on, now instead of slipping this stitch onto your left needle, you're going to pull the loop that you went through off the left needle. Alright, let me show you that again. Let's see if I can get this on. There we go. Alright. So you come through the bottom of the front stitch, come around the back of the right needle, pull your yarn through, and then slip the stitch off the left needle. Okay? Now, to purl, what you're going to do is you take your tail here and you bring it into the front instead of behind the needles. And then you're going to bring your right needle through in the other direction. So you come through from the other side of the stitch. And then you're going to wrap in the other direction as well. And pull it back through the loop. Alright, I'll show you one more time. So if you've just finished a knit stitch, you have your yarn in the back, you pull it around to the front, underneath the needle. Let's see if I can, so you pull it around underneath. Then slip your needle to the other side of the stitch, bring this around behind the right needle, pull the yarn back through the loop on the left needle, and then slide it off. Alright? What I'm doing right now is kind of a ribbed stitch, so I do knit one, purl one. So bring the yarn around to the back again. We're going to knit. And then I'll bring the yarn around front again, and I'll purl one. If I bring this up close, my camera's not the best, but you can kind of see a little bit of a difference. So when you purl, just kind of, it wraps around the front there, you see, and then this is a knit stitch, and purl stitch again. So, knit, you kind of push these up as you're going, slide that off, bring that around, and purl. And so as you keep going and you get a few more rows in, I'll show you how to turn in a minute. As you get a few more rows in, you'll start noticing with this, the knit one, purl one, that you kind of get a ribbing a little bit. It's not a flat piece of fabric. So there's a little bit more elasticity to it, and it kind of bounces back a little. Finished my first row, and all of my stitches are now on my right hand needle. So I'm just going to flip that over to my left. And when you're knitting, you have a distinct front and back of your work. There's, the part that you want people to see, and there's the part that's typically on the inside of the garment. And so what that means is now I'm actually going to reverse my stitch. And so what was a purl on one side is going to be a knit stitch on the back side, and vice versa. When I knit on the right side, on the wrong side, it's a purl. Yeah, knit becomes purl, purl becomes knit. So I finished on a knit, and to keep a cleaner edge, you can do a slip stitch for the first stitch in every row. And what that is you come through in the direction that you would. So this is a purlwise slip stitch. This would be, if I can keep that from falling off. This here would be a knitways slip stitch. So I'll show you. And basically the reason it's called a slip stitch is because instead of wrapping the yarn around on this, you just slip it onto the other needle. So that was purlwise. Come around and knit. And at this point you're not going to worry about the little tail that you have over here. This is the start of your fabric. It can be handy for attaching pieces. When you have multiple pieces you're attaching together for a single garment, as I do in this case. You can weave them in later, and I will show you how to do that at some point, but not in this video. So that is how you cast on, how you knit, how you purl, and how you slip stitch. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to cast off. This is what I'm working on today. Obviously, it's a different one, but I'm going to actually go through the whole process of how to make these little baby sweater hoodies with a lining and everything. I'm going to go through all the steps with you. The series will go through from the knitting to the buttons to the lining, the monogram, the whole deal. We cast on and we started doing this little ribbing stitch. You're going to do 5 rows of that, and then single row and knit. And the pattern's on my website. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing. It's a free pattern. It's also on Ravelry.com. You can find the links below. So this is what we started today. In the next video I'll be showing you how to cast off. If you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, all over the internet.